Please, I'm begging you, take care of them until I can become the father they deserve." Wyatt Monroe stood at Autumn's door, trembling, his eyes hollow with exhaustion. In his arms, two one-year-old girls slept fitfully, Grace and Hope, though they had no names yet. Behind him, snow fell in the quiet college town where they'd once been classmates. Autumn stared at the man she'd known years ago, the brilliant, kind student who'd always treated her with respect when others ignored the orphan girl working at the campus sewing shop. Now he looked broken, barely holding himself together. "Wyatt, what happened?" she whispered. He stepped inside her tiny apartment, his voice cracking. "Victoria left us. She never wanted them. She only agreed to have them if I gave her 40% of my company's shares." He laughed bitterly. I thought if I gave her everything, she'd learn to love them, love us." Autumn's heart broke as she watched him lay the sleeping babies on her worn couch. "Wyatt, what happened?" He stepped inside her tiny apartment, his voice cracking. "Victoria left us. She never wanted them. She only agreed to have them if I gave her 40% of my company shares." He laughed bitterly. I thought if I gave her everything, she'd learn to love them, love us." Autumn's heart broke as she watched him lay the sleeping babies on her worn couch. "For a year, I tried," Wyatt continued, tears streaming down his face. "Victoria spent her days shopping, partying, going out with friends. She hired nannies who didn't care. The girls got sick over and over. I begged her to stay home, to just hold them. But money was all she wanted. Where is she now? Gone. She took the shares and married someone else, someone richer." His hands shook. "And I can't do this anymore, Autumn. I look at them and see my failure. My doctor says I'm having a complete breakdown, depression, trauma. I can't even get out of bed some days." Autumn knelt beside the twins, gently touching their soft hair. "Why me?" Wyatt met her eyes. "Because in college, I watched you volunteer at that orphanage every weekend. I saw how you loved those children even though you had nothing. You have something Victoria never had, a heart that heals." His voice dropped to a broken whisper. "You're the only person I trust. Please, just until I can get better, until I can be the father they deserve." He left an envelope with money and a note that read, "These are Grace and Hope. They deserve better than a broken man. I'll come back when I'm whole again. Thank you for being the person I could never be. W." The next morning, Autumn woke to two pairs of confused eyes staring at her. Grace reached out with tiny fingers. Hope whimpered for her daddy. "Shh, it's okay, sweethearts," Autumn whispered, pulling them close. "I've got you now." The following year was the hardest of Autumn's life. She worked 16-hour days at her sewing shop, surviving on scraps so the girls could eat. When Grace got a fever, Autumn stayed up 3 nights straight with cold compresses. When Hope cried for her father, Autumn sang lullabies until her voice went hoarse. But slowly, something beautiful happened. The girls began to smile, to laugh, to call her Mama. Meanwhile, Wyatt spent that year in therapy, trying to rebuild himself. But medicine couldn't heal what only love could. Every night, he stared at photos of Grace and Hope, drowning in guilt and longing. Finally, he realized, running away hadn't fixed anything. It only made the emptiness worse. One winter afternoon, the shop bell chimed. Autumn looked up from her sewing machine to see Wyatt standing there. Older, steadier, but still haunted. "I came back," he said quietly. Autumn's breath caught. "Wyatt, I need to see them. I need to try." She brought him upstairs, where 2-year-old Grace and Hope were coloring. When they saw him, they froze, then ran behind Autumn's legs, clinging to her dress. "It's okay," Wyatt said, kneeling down. "Hi, Grace. Hope. "Do you remember me?" Grace shook her head. Hope started crying. "Want Mama." Wyatt's face crumbled. He'd expected this, but it still destroyed him. "I understand. I left you. I'm so sorry." Autumn knelt beside him, gently touching his shoulder. "They need time. You all do." Over the following months, Wyatt visited every day. He didn't demand or rush, just sat on the floor, playing with blocks, reading stories, being present. Autumn watched him struggle, saw the pain in his eyes every time the girls chose her over him. One evening, as the girls slept, Wyatt sat across from Autumn in her small kitchen. "You saved them," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You gave them everything I couldn't." "You were sick, Wyatt. You did what you thought was right." "I abandoned them," he whispered, "just like my father abandoned me." Autumn reached across the table, taking his hand. "But you came back. That's what matters. You're here now, fighting for them. That's love." Tears streamed down his face. "How do I fix this?" "One day at a time. Let me help you." And she did. Autumn became the bridge, teaching him how to braid their hair, what songs they loved, how Grace needed extra cuddles and Hope needed bedtime stories. Slowly, painfully, Wyatt learned to be a father. 6 months later, something shifted. Grace ran to Wyatt with a scraped knee, crying for him to fix it. Hope asked him to read her favorite book for the 3rd time. And one night, as he tucked them in, Grace whispered, "Love you, Daddy." Wyatt held them close, finally understanding. Family wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up, even when broken, and love put the pieces back together. Meanwhile, Autumn and Wyatt grew closer, not through romance, but through shared pain and healing. He funded her shop expansion so she wouldn't work herself to exhaustion. She helped him navigate parenthood with patience and grace. 2 wounded souls learning to trust again. One afternoon, Hope asked Autumn, "Why was Daddy sad before?" Autumn knelt down. "Because he was hurt, sweetheart. Sometimes people break inside, just like toys break outside." "But you fixed him!" Grace exclaimed. Autumn smiled softly. "We all fixed each other." Years later, Autumn's shop, now called Thread of Grace, thrived. Wyatt ran his company remotely, prioritizing time over empire. The 4 of them had become something beautiful. Not a traditional family, but a chosen one, built on forgiveness and second chances. One winter evening, as snow fell like the day everything began, they stood outside the shop holding hands. "You know what I finally understand?" Wyatt said quietly to Autumn. "Victoria taught me what I didn't want. But you taught me what real love looks like." Autumn squeezed his hand. Grace and Hope ran back from making snow angels, breathless and glowing. "We made a wish!" exclaimed. "What did you ask?" Grace took both Autumn's and Wyatt's hands, her voice small but powerful. "We wish everyone who's lost finds their way home." Wyatt knelt down, pulling both girls close, his voice breaking with emotion. "You already gave me mine." Autumn joined them, wrapping her arms around all 3, tears streaming down her face. Sometimes the people who break the most are the ones who learn the true meaning of love. Real family isn't made by blood or wealth. It's built by hearts that refuse to give up on each other. And sometimes the kindness of one person can heal what the world has broken. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, subscribe, and comment.